That sounds great.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of That Sounds Great with Khash and G. We're here in London at the Cube, the home of producers. Now, today we've got a very special guest on the show as usual. But before we get into it, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. You don't want to miss out on any of our future episodes. And if you're, listening in by, on Apple Music or Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts, please make sure you tune in and you rate each episode as you listen to them. So, yeah, tell us a bit about the guest today, G.
So, Khash, that was an awesome intro, man. Well,
Anytime.
everyone, welcome to the show. Just want to introduce this awesome guest today. He's worked with people like Meek Mill, J. Cole, so many other cool people as well. I just want to introduce this awesome engineer, Anthony, break it down, Cruz. Bro, welcome to the show, man.
Woo!
Yo,
how you doing?
Khash and G, what's good, man? Pleasure to be here.
Good, man. It's good to have you on the show, bro. We've been looking forward to this one for a while as well. So thank you so much for a start, man. It's been,
For sure, man. My
great
pleasure.
to have you on here, and I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have today.
Definitely.
Give us a little intro to Anthony. Or should we call it break it down? Should we call it Cruz?
Cruz,
What's the best
man.
way?
Cruz.
Cruz turned me up in the headphones.
That's
Yes.
it. Turn me up, Cruz.
Love it. All right, bro. Give us a little intro to Cruz. Kind of where you grew up, where you're from, kind of where you're at now, like kind of just give us an intro to Cruz, man.
For sure, man. First of all, again, thanks for having me. Obviously Avid is a big part of my bread and butter, so I appreciate the team, appreciate the company. But basically, where it starts for me, I was a military brat, was born in Oklahoma on an Air Force base and transitioned from Oklahoma to Colorado to Georgia, where I ended up going to high school and college in Atlanta, and then went to Full Sail in Orlando, and then transitioned to New York, where I've been here for more than 10 years now. This is, to me coming up, between New York and LA were like the two hot spots. Like if I was gonna make it in music, I needed to put myself in one of these two places. So,
Right.
Making the decision early on that I was gonna go full blast with music, it was tough, but it I made the plunge, I made the sacrifice, made a lot of sacrifices, broke a lease.
Wow.
We hear
made
that a lot, don't we?
Yeah,
Making
like
that
made a major move, quit a Fortune 500 company. Like I was, doing
Wow.
really well at my job for a hope and a dream, So basically, went to Full Sail with everything I had scrounged up.
Wow.
Once I graduated the program, shot up to New York and just grinded it out, worked 2 jobs until I had enough money to really be, stabilized and be able to focus full time on a free internship.
Wow.
What ended up happening was through a previous relationship, actually, my girlfriend at the time worked at the Sony building, which was in off of like Madison in New York City, and Rock Nation used to be around the corner from where she interned with Sony, and she overheard them talking about needing interns for their studio, in-house engineers, and she plugged me, and
Just like that.
just like that, man. I shot them my info. They loved what I had to offer. They gave me the opportunity. Fast forward, I started working at 4040 and balancing, working at the 4040 Club, which is Jay-Z's sports bar in Manhattan, 2 blocks from the studio, and I would just work both gigs. So I was like
Damn.
around the clock, just grinding it out, meeting a lot of really cool people. And, all the clients I worked with, J. Cole, J. Electronica, met a lot of really cool songwriters, producers. Stargate was the in-house production team in the B room. They had it fully locked out. So that's where I met a lot of like the pop side, like, Katy Perry and, all the big time pop stars at the time would come in and out of there for them. So it was a hell of an environment to intern in.
Right.
And man, one day I got lucky. I was working at 4040. Meek Mill comes into the studio and has no engineer. Like he had been kind of juggling engineers, on the road over the course of a year. And they called me in and, probably like 2 weeks into us working together, we started really having serious conversations about really locking down what this was, and just kind of, we call it like a creative wave. And here we are almost 10 years later. I'm still
Wow.
locked in with him. And man, we
man.
made a lot of history, did a lot of really cool things, and there it is.
What a story.
The journey,
What
man.
what made you like, obviously you must have been thinking about it for a while to quit your job and whatever, but like you said, you had a very successful job at the time. Like, what made you, like, what switched in your head to be like, okay, that's it, like I'm risking it all, I'm moving out there?
Yeah. It was honestly, I kind of had like a fight with myself, like, are you gonna go with what's gonna make everybody else happy? Because I kind of felt like I was being closed in. Like, the relationship I was in, the girl like bought a house, and was like trying to basically get to the settle down part. I'm driving to a job that I hate, that I literally couldn't sleep at night just thinking about how much I hated this job.
Damn.
And even if it was like something that was keeping me stabilized, I was like, man, the love I have for music and what it would take for me to be great in this space and be able to do what I really want to do and what I love, what is it going to take? And for me, it was like, I got to go all in. And so I made the sacrifice, I made the decision to just literally drop everything and go full blast for it. I was inspired by, Guru and Bruce Surdine and Quincy Jones, all the legends in the music business, and was so curious about how records were put together, and how the way that they, like records that we hear all day on the radio and now on streaming, how they impact the people and what they do for you in life. Music is healing. Music, gets you through a lot of things. It's a lot of people's, kind of their marker for like important memories in their life. And I wanted to be a big part of that behind the scenes, so
Yeah.
I just made the decision, like, man, you got to go. And I was young enough. I was like, look, I don't have any kids. I don't have any real responsibilities if you really look at it. And I went full blast, man.
See, that's the thing. A lot of people talk about like having a job that they hate or whatever, but they have to have it because it keeps them stabilized, right? But at some point, it keeps you paralyzed. Like, it stops you from
Absolutely.
doing the
Stuck with
things you
the same
actually
thing.
love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're stuck with the same, like, it's like a loop, isn't it? Like, you're stuck in that kind of loop. Cruz, that was a quick one, bro.
Yeah.
What was you doing kind of like music wise when you were in this job, right? Was you still kind of, obviously you must have been working like a standard 9 to 5 kind of position.
Yeah.
Was you still kind of from 5 to 10 being in the studio? Did you have a setup at home? Did you kind of start learning Pro Tools or so? Or what was your kind of journey with music during this time?
This is right around the time of like the inbox minis, when people were
Nice.
like, in-house studios were more affordable. So like you could get a little setup for like, under $500. And so I just started experimenting in the house. I really got into it initially trying to be a producer. I looked up to, like, the way I grew up, I was like more classic hip hop, right? So I was like DJ Premier, Jay Dilla, Pete Rock, stuff like that. So I had like my used MPC 2000 that I got off of Craigslist and was just trying to mimic what my idols did. And I was terrible at it. And so I was like, well, let me try to like figure out how to record. Some friends of mine, and that's where my love for engineering kind of like, took off. Just really being curious about how to really master that art form.
Wow. See, that was actually going to be one of my questions. Like, did you always know you wanted to be an engineer, or but you kind of answered it there. But what did you want to be when you were a bit younger, when you were thinking about the music industry?
I kind of was looking at it like, man, it would be really cool to be like some of those guys that I was talking about, like, Pete Rock, Dilla, Pharrell, Timbaland, like, and make the music bed of our lives, like the things that really, like I say, are kind of the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives and important memories.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of like learning about Jimmy Iovine and those type of people, which I kind of mirror some of the things that he's done, because he's shown how a lot of things are possible for people like myself that are starting as engineers, but some of the amazing things that you'll be able to do if you keep on the right path and soak up the game and utilize it the right way. I mean, look at what he's been able to do. You know what I mean? Like it's incredible.
Wow.
Well, man, I want to kind of go into your, like, dude, you're like a brand as an engineer, right? It's so
Yeah.
important to say kind of like you're your own brand. You're kind of like freelancing, I'm guessing, right, as well, and
Yeah.
and you've got so much happening, right? But how did you start? Obviously, I know you mentioned like working with Meek and obviously getting to know people and stuff like that, but kind of how did you start to build your name and obviously your brand in the industry? Because I remember when I came across you the first time and I was like, wow, like you stood out straight away. You're your own brand. You're an engineer, but you're carrying yourself very well. So how did you start to build that brand for yourself, man?
Yeah, I appreciate that. By the way, basically, the people that I came up in the industry around, like the gurus and being around Meek and him coming up under Ross and the like, it really inspires you in terms of how you carry yourself as a business person in this thing as well, because at the heart of what we do, whether we want to admit it or not, business is one of the more important parts of music. And if you're neglectful of that and you're trying to just kind of like be just floating around as a creative and not taking it serious, it's a big miss, I think, and a missed opportunity for a lot of us to be on these platforms that these artists put us on and not take advantage of that, for your legacy, for your family, for how you continue on in this thing. And so I always took it very serious, me branding myself and actually when I started college, I started as a business major. I didn't, I wasn't in line with all of the particulars about business school and but I always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And so I just thought, you got to take it serious, man. I mean, this guy shouted me out on records. He's giving me a hell of a platform, a hell of an opportunity. And I would be remiss to just kind of let it pass and not turn it into anything, for, like I said, for my namesake, for my family, my legacy. So I always took that very serious, and that's why everything kind of translates the way that it does. It's very strategic and on purpose.
Wow.
And at what point during those internships, or whether it was before that, at what point did you realize you could actually do this full time?
Man, I think it was, I feel like I hit my stride maybe like a few months in, because you have to kind of get over the jitters and the butterflies. That the beauty of where I was at Rock the Mic, there wasn't a full staff like you would have at a traditional studio. Like if you go to Metropolis or if you go to a studio in London, it's very much full staff where you may not even touch the board or record a session until a year or two into your internship / assistant engineer role. I was like, my first day, I was assisting Neo and Mary J. Blige between the two rooms.
Man.
And
No
then
pressure.
like a month or two later, I was actually recording a Neo session, and Ricky Martin a few months after that. Like so, it was like they kind of throw you in the fire. And
Did you ever get pinch me moments?
What's that?
Did you ever get pinch me moments?
Yeah, big time. A lot of it was like, I felt like I had willed all this to happen because I looked up to a lot of these people, and there were moments where I was like, I'm gonna work with J. Cole, or I'm gonna meet Jay-Z or this type of thing.
Crazy.
And as it's unlocking, it's like, man, the power of your words, and if you really have faith and believe, it can happen, bro.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you got to manifest, right?
Yeah,
So
You were in the right
manifest.
position as well to manifest it. I think that's
100%.
important.
Cruz, I had a quick question, bro. This is a bit off topic, but have you got like a studio at home? Are you at home? Is it like somewhere in like, do you have your own kind of commercial space, or kind of where do you work out from, man? Because it looks interesting.
Yeah, when I'm in New York, I mean, this is just kind of like a listening room I have in an office in my house, but we typically work out of Jungle City when I'm working with Meek.
Oh, okay.
And so I have the luxury of one of the top studios in New York.
Wow.
I'm actually in the process, as we speak, of trying to help Meek find a proper space so that we could build a studio together. I also want to try to find just kind of expand on that. Have
Yeah.
one in Atlanta, down the line maybe have one in another state, but we're trying to find our own space here.
Make it your own. Yeah.
100%, man.
Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to ask you. So, as we were speaking about you being kind of based in New York, and a lot of the music we listen to these days are in New York, and LA, and London, and stuff. But how has your relationship kind of blossomed? Obviously, with Rock Nation, J. Cole, obviously Meek, we know as well. But did you kind of was you attending a lot of networking stuff as well as an engineer? Was there a lot more to it outside of just kind of being in the studio? Was there kind of certain events you had to go to and kind of push yourself more and be like, hey, I'm, blah, 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 and I do this, I do that, kind of. How did you kind of blossom that relationship?
What's interesting is I kind of feel like I had a big, like a head start ahead of a lot of people. The network I came up around initially, being at around a lot of Rock Nation family, gave me like a springboard because I was around like Tata and Dez and Juan and Guru, and so all these people knew me, and that network in itself, I mean, the branches on that is amazing. You know what I mean? So once you're good with that family, you're kind of good in a lot of places. But when I would run into artists and their particular team, I just always carry myself in a way where, I'm just such a genuine person, and I try to like maintain relationships in a way of like, outside of if I need anything, I just want to, check in on people, make sure everybody's good. And so I pride myself on how I've been able to kind of like nurture relationships over the years. And, when I do cross paths with particular artists and their teams, just kind of knowing like, man, I'm going to obviously not be talking to J. Cole all day, but me and Mez are like best friends, you know what I'm saying? Wow. Or like things like that, just understanding the importance of a lot of these people and their roles, and forming really genuine relationships, because a lot of this is, as you know, really phony and plastic, and so it's refreshing when you can have like genuine relationships, and that's I feel like what outside of networking, I don't really go to a lot of networking opportunities, so that's kind of just how all that stuff flourished.
Yeah, I think it's super important to maintain a good relationship with all the people with you work with, because otherwise you can become quite a forgetful. Oh my God, it's that time again.
Nice.
All right. So Anthony, or Cruz, shall I say? This is the part of the show that we like to call the album interlude section.
Yeah.
Essentially what that means is you have 60 seconds to answer as many questions as possible. How does that sound?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, awesome, nice. So we're going to start the timer now. What was the first album you purchased?
Ooh, first album I purchased. Oh my God.
Got him right off the bat.
Let's say Crisscross.
All right, nice. Analog or digital?
Tape, cassette tape. And
which artist?
I thought you were saying where I bought the tape. I mean the.
Oh no, for mixing. I'm
bro. Digital. I'm digital. All in the box.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Wow. Which artist did you idolize as a kid?
Michael Jackson.
Headphones or monitors?
Monitors.
What would be your job in another life?
Comedian.
Ooh, mixing or tracking?
Mixing.
What's your studio drink?
Margarita.
Oh, alright, cool. Drill music or trap music?
Trap.
That's 2 artists, dead or alive, you'd want to collaborate with.
Oh God.
Oh, that's time. I want to hear that anyway, though. I want to hear that anyway.
I was definitely gonna say Biggie, and you want them to both work together. Is that what you're saying?
on one track.
On one track. Damn.
That's right.
That's so tough, bro.
You're mixing it.
Man.
I'm mixing it.
You're mixing it.
Let's say Michael Jackson and Prince, even though that would never
Ooh.
happen. Even
hang on. Who would you put on? Sorry, go on.
That may not ever happen, even if they were both around. But that would be fucking amazing.
Bro,
that would be fire.
mad.
That would be fire.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, who would you put with Biggie?
Who would I put with Biggie? I mean, he's already got the relationship with Michael, so let's try. I would try to have them
Ooh,
do another.
That would be something different.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy when you mentioned Michael Jackson, and I was like, do you remember that Drake song with Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
bro.
came out of nowhere, bro. I
Yeah,
was like, I
absolutely,
was not
yeah.
prepared for that track, and it's
Bro.
like it's been in my chill playlist for like time.
I remember when that came out, and I was in like my old BMW, bro. It was summertime.
Yeah.
That came out. It was like the nicest vibe, man.
Heavy
It was so
flex.
sick.
Super heavy
Yes.
flex.
Yeah,
man,
bro.
it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, we got distracted there slightly. Going back to you know, the conversations we were having before. What it honestly intrigues me hearing about your story and you know how you got to meet Meek Mill and obviously all the exciting projects you've been working on together for almost a decade now, right?
Yeah.
What would you say has been the most exciting project that you've worked on with him?
I mean, hands down championships. And it was like such a moment, and it was like, you know, when I had first gotten with him, I knew he was a star. Like he just has this vibe about him, like a superstar vibe, you know. But for our journey together and some of the things he had gone through before that, that moment was just so special because he was able to kind of fight through a lot of things and deal with a lot of even like legal issues and stuff in the music side. And for us to come out with a project of that level was, I mean, it was such a big win for all of us and a major statement for him as an artist.
So how is he as an artist, as someone who's obviously been so intimate with him in the studio?
Yeah, he's super dope. It's funny because like he kind of gives you like little insight into how cool he could be, like where he loves to kind of like make fun of himself. He knows how this internet world is, so he falls and busts his ass. He's the first one to post a video laughing about it, or
Nice.
like him doing flips and, you know, stuff back you know, in the locker room at the Sixers game. And he's a really cool guy, you know, like he's got the persona and has come from a rough background and a rough upbringing, but he's very, very chill guy and one of the best friends you could have in terms of loyalty and you know, just being like a genuine person.
Bro, it's something about, like I was saying before we actually went on here as well, just like the hype and the love on the music is just insane.
His
man.
energy
it
is
just
unmatched.
it just gets you in a different vibe.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, like, you know, when people come out and like rappers are different and you really find out why someone is different from another rapper, or why someone is yeah, like I said, like really different. Obviously Meek, having, even now, he's a king of the throne when it comes to the whole hype, man.
Yeah.
I go to the gym, bro, put it on, boom. Like, you know, the one with Phil Collins, bro, you know, the intro.
That intro,
Bro.
yeah.
Oh my, like, it's very hard to get an old, let's be honest, it's very hard to get an old song, bro, and kind of redo it, and it still has that kind of foundation. This was just that moment where you hear it and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Bro, I pump it up. I remember I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and she was just like, even she was just like,
Okay.
oh my God, this is mad.
Let's go then.
So yeah, man. Which is awesome. Did you work on that track as well then, bro?
Oh yeah. I helped a lot with that. You know,
Wow.
me and Nick Paps work very closely together. That's Meek's in-house producer.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, we've kind of built together over the course of his career. He's taken a lot of guidance from us and has become a super producer. Like, he's amazing. You know, you guys will hear a lot more from him. But yeah, that moment was amazing because he had the foundation, and Meek kind of gave him notes and pointers on how he wanted it formatted, and he's good for that. Like, he knows kind of how he wants it to look and feel. And shout out to Phil Collins for clearing the sample, because you know,
man.
that was a big thing we were trying to figure out.
as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's used beautifully.
Yeah.
So actually talking about kind of the process, like let's say for that track or whatever track it may be, how involved is Meek in the mixing process? Right? Does he like kind of come over to you? Do you mix as your you track Meek as well, right? So you're tracking, engineer, and mixing. Okay. So how involved is he in the mixing process? Do you guys do it as you're kind of tracking, or complete separate template, or?
It's funny because he gets demo-itis because, unlike a lot of artists, he'll listen to a rough mix religiously. So by the time you get to mix it, he's already married to the rough. So it's very hard to sway him. Even if it's my work, there's that delicate balance of like trying to put your creative as an engineer on top of what the artist loves and wants, and trying to like, there's always that miscommunication and that barrier. But it's when we come to mixing time, it's gotten better over the years, but it's always been tricky because he just has that feeling from the rough and the raw, vibe from it. It's very hard
Yeah.
to get him to fall in love with a mix. But I think we've gotten to a really good place, and I've over the years noticed, like, I used to take it personal when, like, earlier on, going through some of these, because these were like my first full on projects. So um, you know, but over the years, you kind of learn, like, by the way, he's saying he loves what you did initially. He may just want it kind of hypened a little bit, like, or enhanced, not too crazy with kind of how I had his vocal, or if it's something with, like, I remember he had a note on Blue Notes too. We mixed it probably like over 20 times because he kept saying it felt like a live band.
Wow.
Or it was that was a hate on me, but
Mhm.
similar note on Blue Notes where he was saying something about it felt like a live band, and it took a while to figure out what he meant, but it was kind of like, it was like maybe uh, the percussion was a little overhyped, or something was a little too much in your face, where he was used to it being a little dead in the rough. So we had to, you know, deal with some of that, But
Mm.
it's always interesting, but it always like kind of it helps because you start to learn in that process.
Yeah.
First of all, to kind of take yourself out of it and your emotions and just focus on what is going to make him love what he's presenting to his fans, because it's very
Mhm.
how do you put it? I mean, this is like their body of work. This is their baby at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So we kind of have to fall in line with that vision.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting to hear.
Mm.
Yeah, it must be difficult to adapt to that sort of environment where you're really happy with your mix, and all of a sudden the artist wants it completely the other way, like they want it a
Yeah.
bit more rough and yeah, rough around the edges and stuff. So
Hmm.
and to be fair, like a lot of engineers would claim to be perfectionists, right? Because you're constantly in there, and it takes you ages for you to become happy with your work. So with that in mind, have you ever had to like sign off on a mix that you weren't like 100% happy with?
Yeah, I would say so. Um, but once you realize, like, well, the artist is happy, it's their work, and it doesn't sound trash at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
we've all heard records that went out that, from our critical ear, we're like, really? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So
Yeah, I
it's
can
never been
imagine.
that bad. But yeah, there's been times where I'm like, man, we put so much into it, trying to, on our side of things, make it what we thought was bigger or whatever. But you know, it's kind of disrespectful if you think about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
True.
Good intention,
So
but like, this is their album. You know?
Mm.
yeah, of course, no, and I think it's very important to build that relationship with your kind of artist as well, right? And get to trust and create a bond.
Yeah.
I just want to ask kind of on your process of actually mixing, right? So how do you approach a new mix? So when someone comes in, complete new person, you've got like it's your first session with them. How do you approach that kind of first mix? Like, do you have a template that's ready for every session exactly the same, or do you kind of switch it up, or how do you kind of approach
Actually,
a new
it's
mix?
changed a lot over the years. And over this past year and a half, I would say, it's changed more than ever, where it's dumbed down a lot. I don't have a lot of buses going on. I don't have a lot of, you know, preset um,
Yeah.
plugins or anything like that. I kind of work in a simple way, because what I've learned in my perspective is, like, the more complicated your mixes are, it's just harder to deal with when down the line, when you're dealing with notes and dealing with feedback
Yeah.
and comments, to go back and reverse engineer some of the stuff that you took all this time doing, and how all these things can affect each other in terms of compression, and however you daisy chained it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and so shout out to Guru and Leslie Brathwaite and my guy James Royo, E-Mix, all these guys have heard from me for hours on end on the phone, just going back and forth, having our chats about some of the frustrations of the mix process, and they've dumbed it down so much for me and made it much more easy. So I can just kind of, I throw all the stems in, all the beat files. If it's not already set, match everything up as it is in the rough, and kind of, start with gain staging, and then from there just kind of start working with, EQ and light compression. The most that you're gonna work on in terms of plug-in heavy stuff is for sure gonna be vocals, so yeah, it's helped me a lot to dumb down my process. I mean, it's a lot less hectic, a lot less stressful, and anxiety ridden. So
How
that's
did
where I'm
Break
at
It
with it now.
Down Cruise come about?
Say again.
How did Break It Down Cruise come about?
So, as far as like the nickname Cruz,
Yeah.
so basically,
No, the Break It Down, the whole
oh,
thing.
break it down. That I mean,
Yeah.
me initially it was like a feedback website where I would allow people to submit music, and then for a fee we
Wow.
just chat for a few minutes on the phone. I'd give them feedback, whether it be a mix or music they submitted, and give them tips and stuff that I thought could help them. And it just got overwhelming, and so I ended up turning it into a platform for people to buy products that help quality wise
Nice.
with
Wow.
production and recording. So I have a template that we use in Pro Tools that has all the settings
Nice.
that we start with in tracking. I have a bunch of drum kits that we've created with all of our super producer friends. And so it's just kind of, evolved into this marketplace, for quality. And yeah, but that's where it started. Breakitdown.com. It was like, upgrade your sound. Let me help you with learning how to maneuver in the industry, and give you tips on your music. And then it just evolved more into like literally upgrade your sound with these tools that I'm providing to you that we literally use day to day in the studio.
That's awesome to hear,
So
man. Yeah, for anyone listening or watching out there, we'll have a link in the description for you guys to go and check that out.
for sure.
I've got an interesting question for you actually. What has been, if there has been,
Yeah.
your biggest studio catastrophe? Have you ever had a situation where someone's like spilled drinks over the desk, or like a hard drive was plugged out without what's been
Or
the
you
worst
lost
one?
files, or you lost files.
You know what? I've been good about that. I lost files once, but it wasn't my fault.
Ooh.
Or was it? I don't know.
Allegedly.
It was
allegedly.
yeah, allegedly. So I'll tell you the real one that it still sticks to me this day, and it's helped me a lot. But as far as the files, Meek started a record on a beat, and I loved it. And I think he was kind of halfway on it, but I felt like if I had the files, I could have tried some cool things to like bring it back to light. And I couldn't. I to this day I don't know where the session is. But as
Damn.
far as like a nightmare session, Santi Gold, in like one of my first sessions at Rock the Mic, she records loud. Like, she kind of like listens in one ear. She'll have one ear out, and she has like a very interesting technique in her recording process. And me being wet behind the ears, I wasn't really good with gain staging and the tracking side. When somebody was like, I need it louder, or like, this is my first time dealing with what she was asking for, and her vocal literally distorted at certain points. And
wow.
I went on a trip, we did the session. She was great. Um, I didn't have any direct issues with her. The session went fine. But then I learned maybe a week or so later, when she's in the studio with, of all people, Q-Tip, and I think Jay Brown, one of the top, heads of Rock Nation, and they're like, "What the hell is this? We can't work with this. Like, this is
Oh,
a
wow.
shit recording." And I heard through the grapevine, like Jay Brown was like, "Yo, whoever recorded this needs to be fired." And
Damn.
my brother, to this day, I'm godfather to his son,
Oof.
TT, really held me down and was kind of like, not sure, but sorry about that, whatever, and really looked out for me to really save my ass. But that was a moment like my
That's a
heart
difficult
dropped. I was like,
situation to be in, though.
oh man, I was like, dude, I ruined it. But the fact that I was away and that I wasn't around during the time that they were trying to figure out, like, yo, who caused this problem?
Yeah.
I can say now, almost 10 years later, it was my fault. But at the time, I was like, oh my god,
You heard it here first.
That
Bro,
was
that's
the
the
end of
thing
me.
though. People always expect. People just think things are just easy, and you're sitting there, and it just sounds like it sounds great,
Sounds
right?
great.
Yeah.
But dude, to be fair, like you gotta go through these lessons. God, licenses on my mind, but you gotta go through these lessons, right? To kind of go like become who you are at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And again, going back to that trusting and kind of, it's just
And
going
yeah.
from the ground up.
and also it takes time to like learn to deal with various different artists. Like, so you'll have some artists who come in the studio and they're, like you said, they're quite loud in their vocal mix, but then in their vocal recording, and then you'll have others that are just like whispering or whatever. So it takes time to learn all these different traits of all these different artists, I'd imagine.
And then I've got, I think it's probably the last one now. I think so one I've got, which I'd love to hear from you, Cruz. You have a very strong voice in the industry, and I'd love for you to give some advice to them new generation creators out there, producers, engineers, those who look up to you, and they want to know how. Well, now they know how you got to your position, but also what advice would you give to them?
I would definitely say, to my point earlier, if this is what you really want to do, if you're dead set on it and you're very serious and passionate about it, you have to do everything you can to get yourself in that place. And that nowadays people think that means maybe like hassling through a DM or messaging or flooding people's comments. It's a lot deeper than that. And I think that in today's day and time, people confuse what it means to hustle and get into a certain position. You shouldn't put all of that stress and pressure on people like myself, people like G and Khash, people like other creatives. It's really about you taking your craft serious and sharpening your skill set, and going all in and perfecting your craft as best as possible. And you're gonna get put in a certain position. I've seen it through my journey. I've seen a lot of amazing kids become Grammy Award winning engineers, and rack up a bunch of accolades from being the intern in-house guy at studios that I had traveled around and that had assisted me and made store runs for even me and people that I know, and are now like some of the go-to guys in the industry. So I've seen it happen, and the way that they did it was they worked, like they didn't hassle people and make it feel like it's your responsibility to put them in a certain position, that they knew that they had to put in a certain amount of work and a certain amount of, it takes some elbow grease, man. It's not easy. There's going to be days where you're like, man, is this for me? And you have to have that faith and perseverance. Like, man, I'm going to make this happen one way or another,
Wow. If that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will.
I was gonna say, man, that was amazing.
Nice. Well, listen, it's been fantastic having you here. Thank you so much for joining this call, and hopefully we'll see you in London soon.
Oh
Yeah,
man, I
man,
can't
we
wait
got
to
to.
go back ASAP.
Cruz, thank you so much. Honestly, that was amazing, man.
sure.
That's been an amazing episode. You've given some gems today as well, and from the whole Avid team and me and Khash, we just want to say massive thank you, and of course, thanks for using our tools, man.
For sure.
The
We're happy
lowest
to be
of tools.
Exactly. We're happy to be part of your journey, and we can't wait to see this more success from you guys and listening to your music. And obviously seeing you in London and us
Definitely.
seeing you in New York as well.
Sounds good, man.
One day.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Anytime, man. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Make sure you leave a like, a comment, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a future episode. And if you're streaming on your preferred platform for podcasts. Please make sure you rate this episode and also tune in next week. Not next week, every fortnight for every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Take care and see you soon.